Good afternoon, vinyl community. It's Aris here, the content creator who likes to say no. I've actually put content creator now on my CV. I don't know, can you do that? Will that get me a job in IT? I don't know. Essentially all I do is press play and put myself in front of this video. I can't even do a spreadsheet, so I might be tickling it up a little bit too much, but yeah, it's worth a go. I'm going to do a part 2 of my alternative 80s, and as I said in my previous video, this is alternative to what was the mainstream, so there's nothing I would call mega radical on here, but yeah, the sort of stuff that came off the John Peel show originally, and then he gave them some exposure and the bands would then sort of take off in the charts, and it would be a little bit different from the Freddie Mercury or the Steve Winwood or Bono that was running rampant through the UK charts in the 80s. So first up, The Cure, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. I'm not the world's hugest Cure fan, I've got to be honest, but I really like this album. I think it's fantastic. It's because it's a good mix of their sort of darker stuff and their absolute out and out pop stuff, like Hot Hot Hot, which is kind of like a bit of a funk tune. Catch, which is just a fantastic pop tune, and maybe their greatest tune of all time, which is Just Like Heaven. I think it's their greatest. As I say, I'm not the biggest Cure fan in the world, but my mate Kenny is one of the biggest Cure fans in the world, and I asked him, is this their greatest album? And he said it's about the 5th best. He says he likes Pornography, and I respect your honesty, Kenny, but probably not the answer to the question I was asking. Hang on a minute, let's just check this. No, actually Pornography is a Cure album, so no, let's move on. Never heard it, to be honest. Next up, and I know I always waffle on about this band, but this is my favourite Smiths album, The Smiths Meat Is Murder. This is a Johnny Marr masterclass. It's almost perfect for me. It opens up with the Headmaster Ritual, which is Johnny Marr just flying off in angles that are unimaginable. I mean, there are guitarists who can't even... I've been on YouTube and there are guitarists, really good guitarists, who can't even play Johnny Marr guitar lines. I mean, I think he's an absolute genius. Headmaster Ritual. Then they rip off... He goes rockabilly. They rip off his latest Flame by Elvis Presley on Rules from Ruffians. Then he goes almost heavy metal with I Want the One I Can't Have and What She Said. Then This Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, which is the first Smith single and the only Smith single that didn't go top 30, I think, in the UK, apart from This Charming Man, because that was the first single and it only came out on 7-inch. And then Nowhere Fast, which should have been the single. I mean, as much as That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore is brilliant, it was never a single. Nowhere Fast should have been the single. And then you got Well I Wonder, where Johnny Marr goes full folk mode. Barbarism Begins at Home, where Johnny Marr and Andy Rourke go full chic mode with a sort of a funk disco classic. And the only clanker on here is probably Meat Is Murder, which actually live isn't bad. But when this album came out, I used to wear my Meat Is Murder t-shirt and then wander into McDonald's and order loudly a Big Mac, and thinking I was very clever, the sort of thing you do when you're 14. After 3 months of that, someone tapped me on the shoulder and pointed out I was actually being quite irritating, and in retrospect they were probably right, but this is the masterclass. I love this album. Next up, The Primitives. It's a great. I love The Primitives, and to be honest, I listened to this album about twice when I bought it in 1988, and kind of didn't listen to it again, because when this came out, about a week later, Surfer Rosa by the Pixies came out, then Hairway to Stephen by the Buttle Surfers came out, then Isn't Anything by My Bloody Valentine came out, and to be honest, this sounded a bit like old hat, because really this is like a well-produced power pop album, really. I started listening to it again about a year ago, and it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's got their big hit on it, which I think was a top 5 in the UK, Crash, but there's some absolutely fantastic power pop moments on it. There's a song, Don't Want Anything to Change, which is brilliant. Stop Killing Me, superb. Out of Reach, Through the Flowers, Dreamwalk Baby. It's a really great power pop album, and I've come to love it now. That's the Primitives, and what's it called? Lovey, is it? I don't know. Yeah, Lovey. What an awful album title, but yeah, fantastic. As I said on a previous video, I went to see them in live, and it was probably one of the worst experiences of my life. They were appalling live. Next up, Prefab Spout, Steve McQueen. Such a great album. At the time when I bought it, I just enjoyed it for what it was. Looking back, you realise they were sort of probably influenced by stuff like Steely Dan, that sort of almost perfect adult pop. Side one. This was actually, when this came out in America, they had to call it Two Wheels Good or Two Wheels Bad. I can't remember. I don't know if Steve McQueen put in some sort of lawsuit, or I don't know. Can you copyright a name? I don't know. But side one on this record is almost perfect. It opens up with Farron Young, then Bonnie, then Appetite, then the big hit in the UK, When Love Breaks Down, then Goodbye Lucille, Hallelujah. I mean, stick that on. That is all killer, no filler. Side 2 kind of runs out of steam a little bit. There's still some great stuff on it, but yeah, Steve McQueen by Prefab Sprout. I mean, what a fantastic album. Next up, the House Martins, the people who grin themselves to death. This is their second. They only brought out 2 albums. Obviously, the band that gave us Paul Heaton, who went on to form the Beautiful South, who were just huge in England in the 90s. I think one of the biggest greatest hits collections, or the biggest selling greatest hits collections ever in Europe. And of course, Norman Cook on bass, who became Fatboy Slim. One of the remarkable things about the House Martins is, one, in the UK certainly, they were pretty much a pop band. They were never off top of the pops. They were always in smash hits. Every single one of their singles, every single one of their songs is pretty fiercely political. I mean, you look at the singles off this, Me and the Farmer, that's kind of about social class and land ownership. Five Get Overexcited is kind of like, again, a kind of a social class and the gentrification of London or cities in the UK. Build, a fantastic song, again was about, you know, town planning and the way that Britain's landscape was just being hammered by ridiculous town planning ideas. And these were just big top 10 pop songs, and they were so political. Even their non-singles were all political. Fantastic band. And Me and the Farmer has one of the great middle eights, which absolutely takes Thatcher down. Just a fantastic band, the House Martins. And they got out at the right time. 2 albums. They realised they couldn't do anything else. Jacked it in, and yeah. London Neil Hole 4 was the first album, and they're pretty much, it's hard to split them. They're very similar in style. Kind of like a more user-friendly Smiths, I suppose. But just fantastic sort of frothy guitar pop. Absolutely love the House Martins. Next up, Xtc Murmur. This is when they again, a bit like Prefab Sprout, they were starting to go a little bit more adult. This one was produced by Todd Rundgren, the legendary Todd Rundgren. I think they didn't get on very well. I think they fell out badly, but they managed to just about get this album over the line, and it's a great album. Maybe their strongest, although a lot of people will prefer maybe the spiky and new wave stuff. But sorry, I called it Murmur. Xtc is Skylarking. Why did I call it Murmur? It's a great album, sort of psychedelic pop. You can see why they got Todd Rundgren in to produce it. It's just fantastic. Skylarking by Xtc. Next up, Searching for the Young Shoal Rebels by Dixie's Midnight Runners. When I talk to people on the internet, as I have been for about 3 years about music, I realise that Dixie's Midnight Runners are seen as a bit of a joke band in America, because they're only known for Come On Eileen. In England, they were known as quite a serious concern. This album contains their first #1, the fantastic Gino. Also contains There My Dear, which is again a fantastic soul stomper, which I think if you go onto YouTube, they do a brilliant live version of it on the sitcom The Young Ones. This is a great record, very soul influenced. They do a cover of 7 Days Too Long, which I think was by Chuck Jackson, which was a Northern Soul classic in the UK. A fantastic song, a great album. The album that came after this with Come On Eileen on was 2AA, which I actually prefer. I think 2AA is one of the most underrated albums ever. It's absolutely brilliant. You can pick it up in the UK certainly for between £5 and £10, and it's a brilliant album. And as is this, Searching for the Young Soul Rebels by Dixie's Midnight Runners. Next up, The Four. This is their sort of hits collection, 84 to 89, the A-sides. The Four, obviously a very typically English band. Marky Smith sadly died, I think 2 years ago now, 3 years ago maybe. I think they made about 45 albums. This is when Brick Smith from America joined the band and gave them a more of a pop edge. And they actually have some fantastic songs in here. There's a cover of Mr. Pharmacist, which was a 60s garage track, which is brilliant. And again, there's another Northern Soul classic on here, which was, what was it called? I can never remember what it's called. There's a Ghost in My House, which came out on Motown in the 60s. So, yeah, they actually had a few hits off this in the UK. I think there was a couple of top 30s. And also, there's a bit of electronic influence on tracks like Hit the North. It's a really, really great album. I think I've got all the 80s Fall albums, and yeah, what a classic band. Next up, Positive Touch by Undertones. This was their third album before they sort of disappeared into sort of keyboard new wave hell for one more album. This is their last great album, and it's got When Saturday Comes, which is a brilliant track, and also It's Gonna Happen, which is was very influenced by Dixie's Midnight Runners. It's kind of like a bit of a soul stomper, which is actually written about the IRA hunger strikes. And when they went on Top of the Pops, one of the members of the band wore Black Armband, which didn't go down too well with the BBC, and I think they were pretty much banned after that anyway. Fantastic album, really poppy, really guitar-y, superb stuff. The Undertones, Positive Touch. I can't remember the album that came out after this, but it was pretty awful. And again, like all the best bands, they jacked it in when they knew the game was up. Last up, I can't remember if this was the 80s or not. Spirit of Eden, Talk Talk. I think this came out in the 80s. Not my favourite album, but a really interesting album. When Talk Talk first came out, they were almost like a Duran Duran kind of band. They were going for the new wave, and they had some quite big hits in the UK. This is really inspired by sort of Miles Davis's Kind of Blue or Sketches of Spain. Very ambient, fantastically produced. Took the band, I think, 2 years to write. A really fantastic album. Maybe not for me, and I don't listen to it much anymore, but it's got a massive cult following. Sadly, again, the lead songwriter of Talk Talk, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me at the moment, died again about 3 years ago. But absolutely fantastic band, and a really interesting album. And if you're really into a fusion of jazz and rock and ambient, this is a great album to buy. Talk Talk, Spirit of Eden. So thanks for that. That's another video of me alternative 80s, and I'm sure there'll be more videos to come. So thanks for that. Bye now.